Hello and welcome to this Slam Dunkler Special Edition. Currently, John is busy, out of town, dead maybe, I don't know. Um, so I am going to spend this time talking about Modern, and in particular a deck I've been playing recently, which is Kiki-Pod. Currently playing an older list, played by a tweaked version of Scotty Bromowski's PTQ list, and Grand Prix Kansas City happened a couple weeks ago, and I am going to just discuss the basics of the deck, and I'm going to explain deck choices, how to play it, how to play against it. So if you do play Modern and you want to know how to beat the deck, or what cards are important, or what numbers are important, I'll be able to help you out a little bit with that. And I am just currently undercutting myself because the deck that I play in Modern is generally good because people don't know how to play against it. So I'm going to give you the inside information on how to beat me, because everyone clearly needs the help because I am that good. So yeah, I'm going to use Arilex's top 8 list from the Grand Prix, and we'll go from there. Just in general, a couple things about Kiki-Pod is that it plays usually around 30 creatures, 4 to 6 spells, and rest our lands. So if the deck plays 30 creatures, it's clearly combo, right? The deck really isn't designed, for the most part, to beat you down with damage. That's kind of how Pod wins. Pod has the combo, but if it gets it, great. But otherwise it has Gavany Township and other value dudes to just beat. Kiki-Jiki Pod is the opposite. It relies heavily on the combo, but if it happens to sneak some damage in here or there, it might get to 20 without ever getting Mr. Jiki on the board. So just from my experience in general, the pros of the deck, it's very, very, very fun to play. It's one I love combo, so I guess that's part of it. It's a combo deck, which is awesome. It plays a bunch of really cool creatures. I love Noble Hierarch. I love Birds of Paradise. Kitchen Sphinx is awesome. Kiki-Jiki is one of my favorite cards. Just after playing the deck, it's just so fun. I don't like the new art on the Kiki, but the old art is awesome. It seems like the picture on it should be for like a cartoon like Kiki-Jiki and Friends Hour or something. It seems like cool. It's like just a dragon a goblin who befriends dragons and sphinxes and red caps and things like that. It's just cool. I like the idea of the card. It just really I love the fact that Kiki-Jiki is very cool. I love saying Kiki-Jiki Mirror Breaker. Whenever I cast them, I try to say that just because I don't know, it sounds awesome. It's a great name. Another part of the deck that's really cool is it's essentially just a toolbox. The list that Arilax played, and it runs 4 pods. And then in terms of creatures, it's 4 4 Birds of Paradise, 4 Noble Hierarchs, and then a couple 3-ofs, a couple 2-ofs, a lot of 1-ofs. Sideboard, again, a lot of 1-ofs. You can generally use pod to grab any creature that you really want or need, or things like that, because usually you'll have a couple creatures in play. You have a lot of options, so it's really fun. It's a very skill-intensive deck that requires knowing the meta, knowing the opponents, knowing what decks they're playing, how they work. So it's really complicated, and I've lost a lot of games just not knowing what I'm doing. I've missed the combos a lot of times, just not knowing how to do it. So I'll hopefully give some information on what to do, what's needed, and so forth. So we'll start off with the mana base. The mana base that I had been using is just god awful. I hate playing decks with bad mana, and it really does have generally bad mana. Which is strange because in standard, in modern, you really should have practically perfect mana anytime. 3-color decks can do it. 4-color decks can play with practically perfect mana if you build the mana base. It's fine, but with fetches and shocks and some fast lands. The buddy land. The fast lands. The Scars lands, the ones that are come into play untapped unless you control 3 more lands, in which they come into play tapped. Really good modern. the problem with Kiki-Pod is that you really need to pay attention to your life. You will do in any given game 8 to 12 points of damage to yourself just based on the mana and activating and casting pod. So the mana base has to be very conservative in terms of shock lands and fetches. So in terms of shocks, it runs one breeding pool, it runs a hallowed fountain, it runs a sacred foundry, a steam vent, a temple garden, and a stomping ground. It runs 4 Grove of the Burn Willows. In terms of fetches, it runs 3 arid mesas and 4 misty rainforests. A lot of times you need to fetch up 1 blue in case you have a Glenlander Archmage or Staticaster or Phantasmal Image, something that you really need the blue for, but it weakens the mana base just a little bit, and it's sometimes problematic when you need white, you need blue, which one can you fetch for? Because at the same time you need to be very aware that Kiki is triple red, hard to cast sometimes depending on your mana base. Rounding it out, it also runs a forest, a plains, and 2 rugged prairies to go for white or red. So mana base never really exciting to talk about, never really great. My personal thought is I wonder if you could jam. Oh, I'm sorry. The Lax deck runs 2 Gavany Townships as well. Very, very important card. It turns this pod deck into one that can actually beat with damage. You can have explosive draws in terms of damage, like birds, hierarch, township, and then maybe like a kitchen finks or something. And you can just find a way to just gradually, put a counter or 2 on if you have nothing else. If your draws are creature light, which happens occasionally, and if that's the case, you can make your dudes bigger, buy some more time, get some more damage, and it gives you another avenue to win. The basics are in there clearly for Path to Exile, or if you need to fetch for a land and you need the mana this turn, and you can't shock yourself. So it does give you some more outs there. In terms of spells, this deck runs 4 Birthing Pods. Clearly 4 of. Clearly the cornerstone of the deck. And he ran 2 Domri raids. Recently I've been playing with 1, and if you're greedy or lucky, I'm generally both, you can just lead with like a turn 1 red land, whatever, like a stomping ground or something that produces some green, ideally green red stomping ground. But if you have a temple garden, that's fine. Just go birds or hierarch, then just go next turn land Domri raid. Turn 2 Domri raid is very powerful, because based on that your odds are generally better than 50% to get a creature. And since most decks really don't have planeswalker removal, have to beat it down with damage, it's kind of rough to get there. Domri himself starts at 3, and pumping him the +1 look for the top, boosts him to 4, so he is out of Lightning Helix and Lightning Bolt range. A lot of decks, he might just eat 6 damage in terms of 2 spells and might have a chance of drawing a creature or 2. Really, really strong in a deck that just needs creatures, and oftentimes just any creature is good because it'll give you an effect sometimes, and it will be potted away to something bigger, better. And that's really all you want, is just to flood the board and then just construct your combo. So in terms of creatures, it runs the Mana Dorks, 4 Birds Paradise, 4 Noble Hierarchs. He ran 1 Wall of Roots. I know the deck that I'm running plays 4 Wall of Roots. I like the Wall of Roots against the beatdown kind of decks, against the red deck. It just it eats damage every turn. Just takes 2 from a Goblin Guide or whatever, and just buys you more time. I'm not sure how this would be in terms of, I guess, playing a more aggressive kind of deck, or a less combo based deck, because the Gavany Township does help you get there, and it does play a couple actual creatures that are there to beat down. So it's pretty interesting. I'll have to give it a shot, see how it is. I might tweak my deck, see how it goes. So in terms of those are your 1 drops, your birds, your hierarch. On 2 drops you got the Wall of Roots. And other 2 drops that it plays, one of a Phantasmal Image, great to copy things. You can copy like a 4-drop Pot into a Kiki-Jiki, which is really powerful, saves you mana. You can copy one of their better creatures. With the rules change that just happened, I'm not going to talk about that. The rules change, I'll wait for John, we'll discuss it. It used to be a great way to kill Iona, Linvala, Emrakul, whatever, but does not, so it's still a value card. I imagine Phantasmal Image is still going nowhere in this deck. He ran a 1-of Cacilia Pride Mage, which is just a general catch-all to deal with artifacts, enchantments. It's okay against Affinity, not amazing, but it really shines against those decks that might main deck a Blood Moon, might main Joe Steet. Non-shout out to Joe Steet who main decks Blood Moon. But he finally got a shout out. I know he's been clamoring for one, so I'll give him a shout out. Yeah, he plays some interesting decks, Joe, and I think the main deck Blood Moon's cute. Definitely hoses a lot of decks. So yeah, the Cacilia Pride Mage out there is just a general catch-all. It runs a Fauna Shaman, which I love. I did not play Fauna Shaman in my version, but I am clearly going to be doing so next Modern event I can. It seems very fun, and Fauna Shaman is one of my favorite cards. I know I have a lot of favorites. I love birds. Fauna Shaman is just really awesome. It's an elf, and it played really well with Vengevines, and it played really well with every card I played when I first started Magic. So Fauna Shaman is just one of my favorites. And I also have an awesome Fauna Shaman story with Scott Puccio, so that helps even more. Fauna Shaman also, it's another way to just tutor up the cards you need, and late game dump your the birds that you needed turn 1 and got turn 6. It also runs a 1-of Spellskite. It generally helps protect your combo, eats removal if you need it. Against the red deck, it's a good way to save a life on a bolt, and if you have a blue source, you can also just use it to save some damage. Really powerful. It's great against the Splinter Twin match, because in terms of Splinter Twin, it just eats the ability. Steals the enchantment for 2 life, breaking up a combo, making it harder for them to go off. And it runs a Tarmogoyf. I'm not personally sure why Tarmogoyf is in this deck. I know it's definitely a beater card, and it's used to punch some damage through. And Tarmogoyf is generally a card that when people see it, they have this image that Tarmogoyf is a great card and is very hard to deal with and powerful and things like that, and they need to kill it. And that might be a way to just bait out removal, or just play them turn 2 and just get some early damage, and maybe put a clock on to maybe disrupt them a little bit, make them change their plans so they're not goldfishing while you're goldfishing. Also, one last 2-drop here is, this is a standard Star in the Making, Voice of Resurgence, 2-of. It definitely does make the deck more of a kind of a beatdown deck, but on top of that, it's also good against Wrath effects. I know very few decks run Wrath, but I guess the blue-white Tron deck, excuse me. I don't have anyone here to point me in the direction of all the proper words I'm trying to think of, or the decks I'm trying to think of. It's good against the blue-white Tron deck, because if they do Wrath, you do get a dude. On top of that, it's good against any blue deck, because if they're casting spells, you're gonna get the voice token, which can get pretty big. So, someone just sent me a Facebook note or message or whatever. I'm gonna close Facebook. I apologize. So yeah, Voice Resurgence seems good in this deck. It does, I'd like to give it a shot. I know blue decks are kind of a pain to deal with, so casting blue spells are blue decks are the ones casting things in your turn. They're countering your spells. It really makes Remand look awful, especially if you're on the play. You just go turn 2 Voice. Then anything you do, if they want to counter it, you're gonna get a dude that's at least a 2/2. So that seems really nice. I think Voice is pretty good. I'm starting to warm up on that card. So I don't know if it's $50 worthy, but maybe if it's good Modern, maybe I'll pick a few up. So The important part about Birthing Pod decks is to know exactly where all of your cards lie in terms of the mana curve, and when you have them, when they're in your yard, when in your hand, when you can actually get them, when you cannot. So going up the chain from 2 drops or 3 drops, I already ran 2 Deceiver Exarchs at 3. Deceiver Exarch is part of the Kiki combo. Tap, run, tap, target permanent when it comes into play. Has flash. Cards, it's a good way to tap down an Emrakul, tap down a big guy if you have to for a turn. Ideally, you're not doing that, but if you have to, the card's very good to do so. You can cast it and get a Birthing Pod, or untap your, you can cast it or pod for it, untap your Birthing Pod, so you can go from a 2 to 4. But I'll talk about the pod mechanics when I'm going through the creatures. It runs a 1-of Izzet Static Caster. I have no idea why this card's in the deck, but at the same time, this card's in the deck to deal with the 1-drops in other decks. It's a good way to kill the Martyr Sands, the Soul Wardens and stuff from Soul Sisters. It's good at killing birds and hierarchs in the mirrors, birds and hierarchs in any other matchups. It kills Malira, it kills Viscera Seer, it kills a lot of things. So at 3 it's not awful, because you can always just bring it in, kill something, next turn untap, kill something again. If you can kill 2 things, great, and then pot it away for a 4-drop. So that seems pretty good. I'll definitely give it a shot. It seems like it makes sense. It's one of the things that doesn't necessarily look good in every meta game, especially playing a local store, but truth be told, at a big tournament, this seems like it's got to hit so many home runs that it's worth it. The key 3-drop in this deck, the Kitchen Finks. Kitchen Finks, solid card. Most importantly about it, it gains you life. When you're paying mana for shocks and you're paying mana to cast and activate Birthing Pod, gaining 2 life is really powerful. If you can pot a 2-drop into a 3-drop, in your 3s turns out to be Kitchen Finks, you can save the mana, or you can just build up some extra life in case you want to try to do something crazy next turn. Kitchen Finks great. On top of that, it's a beater, has persist. It's really what you want in a 3-drop. I'd really see, if I weren't playing like a pod deck and we're playing like more of an aggro deck, Kitchen Finks just seems like the ultimate mid-range card. Like he's good as a kind of a higher up beater in a aggro deck. He seems good as a lower beater in a bigger deck. Seems good in combo. He seems like he just does it all. I love mid-range. I will openly say that I love mid-range. I guess I love every deck, but Kitchen Finks is one of those cards that I could just fall in love with, I think. I didn't really play when it was in Standard, unfortunately, but I'm playing it in Modern. I like it. Really powerful. No complaints. That's all the 3-drops. I know some versions run Eternal Witness. Eternal Witness is a good card. Generates card advantage, draws you a card from your yard. Great late game, probably not so good early game, and not really good in terms of like a beatdown deck. Not that this deck wants to be a beatdown deck, but if it happens to be beat downy, then great for that. So I guess I see why he didn't play that. So let's go to the 4s. This is where things get really powerful. A 1-of Glanolendra Archmage. For those of you who don't know what it is, 2/2 flyer. You can sack it by paying a blue to counter target non-creature spell. So it's good to deal with lots of removal, protects your other stuff. Protects them from going off with their combo or big spells. Really good against decks casting big mana stuff like Karn, or just breaking up a Splinter Twin, preventing that from being cast. Prevents Sphinx Revelation from going off. Again, it's not one of those cards that is just amazing, but it has 2 things going for it. It's a 1-of, so you can toolbox for it if you need it, and it's never awful to have it in play. And it's a 4-drop with persist, which is very, very, very important with this deck. So we'll get to that later about the mechanics, but yeah, that's a 4-drop. It also plays Linvala, Keeper of Silence main. I love the card, but I don't. It does blank, a lot of things in the mirror. It blanks a lot of things in Malira Pod. It deals with Fulminator Mage in terms of living end deck. It's just a general catch-all. It's also a 3/4 flyer, so it does bring the beats, which is very important. In having that 2-pronged approach, just beating out with Linval every turn. It also blinks Kiki and Splinter Twin. So it does have a lot of utility in it, and a 3/4 flyer will get some damage through. It runs a 1 of Murderous Redcap. Murderous Redcap 2/2 comes into play. It deals damage to its power. So it comes in for 2. When it dies, it comes back with Persist and does 1. He's a 2-drop with an enters the battlefield ability with Persist. This card is amazing. Whenever I cast it, I always feel like I get great value. If I can't win after it resolves and I tap with it, I know I'm still going to get, at least a 3-for-1 out of it. So that's, generally pretty strong. It runs 3 Restoration Angels. Resto's a good way to knock off persist counters off your guys. It's a good way to bring some beats, and on top of that, it's also a way to combo out with Kiki-Jiki Mirror Breaker. And then your 5-drops. The deck only runs 2 5-drops, I believe. 2 Kiki-Jikis. I personally run 3. I used to run 3. I do run 3 on the deck. I'll wait, tweak it to 2, see how it goes. Something you really don't want to draw Kiki, and if you do, it's not awful because he is hard to cast, but when you cast him, you're generally gonna really change dynamics of the game. There have been times when I've drawn multiples, which is very frustrating. But that being said, I could see 2 being really good. You generally want to pot into it. So I think maybe cutting it down to 2 and just adding another toolbox card would be great. So Kiki-Jiki Mirror Breaker, core the deck 2/2. Tap, make a copy of a dude. You can make infinite dudes with Deceiver Exarch and with Restoration Angel, and with your other 5-drop. Your other 5-drop is Zealous Conscripts. Zealous Conscripts is a great utility card. 1 of. I would love to have someone play a Tron deck, jam an Emrakul, untap for the next turn, have them move to attackers. I'll flash into Deceiver Exarch, tap Emrakul down, untap, and then pod a 4-drop into Zealous Conscripts, steal the Conscripts, and wipe their board. And actually, it'd be better if I just hardcast Conscripts from my hand, because then I could use pod with my Emrakul. But that's greedy, and I'd love to do it because it would be awesome, and the other guy would rage. Maybe not. You might just think it's funny. But yeah, Zealous Conscripts. I've been on the receiving end of a lot of Zealous Conscripts in my Walker alt shenanigans. So I like to be on the giving end every now and then. So yeah, those are the creatures. Birthing Pods, does things, I've heard. Dominant Rig draws you a lot of creatures. So on top of that, if you need to fight, you can just generally you can pod for any dude you need to, and then just kill one of the guys if you have to. The minus ability doesn't seem very good in this deck, but that being said, it seems more of like a random used to get out of a jam utility. But his alt is really powerful. I think if I had Dom rate 7, I probably would most likely try to get him to 8 to use my alt and still have him around. But that being said, being greedy, get him to 7 and then just off on him so you can give your dudes double strike, haste, trample, lifelink banding, rampage, whatever he gives, all the abilities. Banding is a powerful ability. I used to play with banding when I was younger. I clearly don't know what it did back then, and I clearly don't know what it does right now. So yes, if you can ban stuff with Domri, please do. So his sideboard ran a lot of 1-ofs, so we'll just go through them right now. Ancient Grudge, generally for affinity decks. Avalanche Riders, blows up lands. It's decent for Tron decks. If you get the combo, get close to, or their Tron. If you can aggressively you drop an Avalanche Riders turn 3 or pod 4, you might be able to break up the combo. I keep calling it a combo. It's not really a combo. The Tron deck. If you get rid of the pieces, you buy yourself a few turns. You prevent that from you just going off, casting Worm Coils, things like that. 1 of even Mind Sensor. Generally, this is the card you don't want to play against, but good in the mirror. Good with a lot of decks that do searching. Just a good way to hate on cards. Excuse me. 1 of Chalice of the Void. I know I'm so bored. I'm boring myself. I'm yawning. So blah blah blah. 1 of Chalice, probably good against combo decks. I'm not a huge expert on the deck, so I don't know why he played Chalice. I'll take it on faith that he's probably, I mean, he's a good enough player. I don't know him personally, but I've seen his name up on enough lists to know that he's knows what he's doing. So I think that Chalice is probably a way to deal with Storm or general combo decks, maybe like a Soul Sisters deck, like a low mana cost deck. Seems fine. I'm not a huge fan of it though. It's a one of that you really can't tutor for. It seems not so good. Either Swan Canonist, one of you can tutor for. Slows down decks, except artifact decks. You can pod for it. Good way to turn like a Birds of Paradise into something useful. Runs 2 negate. Not awful. As much as I don't like playing cards that aren't creatures in this deck, for general toolbox reasons. Negate seems fine. Deals with a lot of stuff. Non-creature spells. Probably for the Tron decks, probably for like control decks, mystical teachings, probably for the America deck. Seems fine. One of Obstinate Baloth, great way to gain some life. For the red decks, the aggressive decks, get you out of a jam when you need it. 3-Path Exile, really good against the decks that require spout removal. That deck being Infect. Path Exile just blows out Infect, so more power to it. One is Sigarda, Host of Herons. Sigarda is a 5/5 flyer. That's very, very important to keep in mind when you play against blue-white, as their colonnade is a 4/4 flyer. So huge. Sigarda is. I saw Sigarda just. Was watching Pod play once, and guy potted for Sigarda. I wasn't ready for it. I was shocked. I didn't know what that was going on, and I looked over at the other guy's board. He had like 2 colonnades and another dude, and he just couldn't get the damage through because Sigarda just owns them. Flying hexproof and spells your opponent's control, can't cause you to sacrifice dudes. Kind of hurts Liliana a bit. Not really the intention, but good splash damage. So Sigarda really powerful. The problem is she's a 5-drop, so you probably won't want to run her main. I like Sigarda a lot. Also on the side it runs 2 Goyfs. Keeping on with that whole want to be aggressive theme, things like that. And a 1 Thrun the Last Troll. Thrun can't be countered, has Regenerate. Another just the kind of creature just doesn't go away. Just like Sigarda, insanely hard to deal with. Just a hassle, really powerful. I mean, it beats, it blocks well. Hard to eliminate. So cards like Thrun and Sigarda are really important to know when to bring them in and when to get them. And if you're playing against pod decks, realize that they're probably going to bring those cards in if you're playing a lot of removal, like if you're playing like America or something, I am going to snap bring in Thrun, snap bring in Sigarda, because Thrun will resolve, and Sigarda, if she does resolve, is going to just blank your colonnades and blank your removal. So, these are the kind of cards that, if you're playing pod, be aware that they're there, because it might help you change your sideboard to know what you're playing against. And because if you can't beat those, you just might lose. You might have to scoop a game because they resolve Sigarda and you're screwed. Person in the sideboard or main deck, I would love to see one of Thalia. Thalia is great against control decks, great against mid-range decks. She's not amazing against aggro, but if you can play her turn 2, it'll really slow down their Goblin Guides and some smaller affinity things. Because even if you they have 2 or 3 dudes, they'll have to hold most of them back and just swing with their one big guy that Thalia can't own. Because if the like Alpha Strike or something, you can just pop a Mem Knight and then next turn pop something else, and just decrease the power of their big guys. So I'd like to see a Thalia in there. I'd probably play a Thalia over Chalice. I think I'd do Thalia over Chalice. I like playing Mimic Vat in my sideboard. It's not really great. It's janky, but Mimic Vat's a card I like. I'm not playing anything serious, so I'm gonna play Mimic Vat. I'm playing a 1 of Revel Arc in the main. Personally, these are my tweaks to the deck. The Mimic Vat, the Thalia. I played some 2 Eyes of the Winzit. Don't even bother looking it up. No one probably remembers what it does. It was before my time too. It's a green colorless enchantment that says whenever a player plays a blue spell on your turn, you get a 4/4. Probably a precursor to the whole voice resurgence, and that's a good mechanic that they transferred over. So I'd imagine voice resurgence is going to be a lot better than Eyes That Wins It. So yeah, I could definitely see voices over that. I play Revelark, a one of main because it's cute. It's a five drop you can evoke for 6, and if you happen to have a Deceiver Exarch and a Kiki-Jiki Mirror Breaker in your graveyard, or if you have some other smaller things like Phantasmal Image, it's a good way to get back 2 value creatures. I do like being able to pick off a Deceiver Exarch or just getting a Kiki back is worth it. Generally, it's a 6 mana evoke, so it's like running another Kiki, but at the same time, you can always use it to pick up a red cap. You can pick up a Phantasmal Image, Pride Mage, Spell Skite, things like that. So it's a way to get some dudes back. I like it. It's cute. Probably not great. So that's the deck for you. So how do you play this deck? From my experience, opening hands generally you run 8 1-drop accelerators, birds, and Hyrax. So if you have a hand that's generally 2 lands and one of those, you're pretty much getting ready for a turn 2 down or turn 2 pod. If you have those, amazing. If you don't, like Kitchen Finks is good. Fauna Shaman is good to see Rex. I mean, just something that can put a little pressure on is great, or something that, get you ready for your combo is important. Just from my experience, I played twice this week. The variance was just brutal. I had a lot of heavy land draws, and those are the ones that kind of hurt. You just get land flooded and you're screwed. So that'll probably happen a lot less than what happened to me this week. So yeah, like 2 or 3 lands is ideal. If you have anytime you have like 6 or more lands out, you kind of I used to get worried if you get that many lands out because you're kind of like, oh, I got 6 lands in play. I've played a dork or 2. How haven't I won yet? So I like this list though because it does have ways you can not rely on the combo. Just some beater guys. So yeah, opening hands, it's rough. You don't want to keep one that has a 4-drop, 5-drop. Unless your 4-drop is Birthing Pod, which Birthing Pod is actually a 3-drop in this deck. You take the 2 every time. Ideally, run it out turn 2. You have to 2 and 3, great. But Birthing Pod's kind of like a 3-drop. If you have a hand that's it's got like a Glenalendra or Linvala and like a Conscripts or Kiki or something like that, something that doesn't really do much your first few turns, you're gonna want to ship it back usually. But if your hand's like 3 lands, a 3-drop, or a Fauna Shaman, then like Kiki-Jiki Resto, you can keep that and just try to run it out there and just get the combo if they don't have the disruption. My general play style is actually when I was playing Magic, first started playing, I played against Bill Nielsen a decent amount of times, and shout outs to Bill Nielsen. Probably not listening, whatever. Hopefully he is cool. But I played him a lot not a lot. I played him a decent amount of times when I was first starting to play and getting in the competitive Magic, and like 4 or 5 times I would just I'd cast a card like Vengevine or something just important like a Sword of Feast and Famine or some big dude in draft or sealed or whatever, and Nielsen would always be playing blue. I do not know why. I don't know if he always plays blue, or I probably does. He's got the range to play in the deck. But for some reason, every time I played against him, he was playing blue, and I'd always just I'd think about it for like 2-3 minutes. What can I do? If he's got the spell, what do I do? Do I rush it out? Do I try to sandbag it a turn, try to get something to have him eat the counter spell, and then jam the card I really need? And not in Vengevine, in case you always run out Vengevine, but almost always. But the big thing was I'd always think for a few minutes, run it out there, and I'd be like you got the counter, and you never did. And that's one thing about Magic that it taught me is that most of a lot of the time it's good to be aware that counter magic exists, but assuming they have counter magic is great. But if they're bluffing on you, you're preventing yourself from winning the game. I don't like to play around counter magic unless I know they have it. If they have in general the big cards that are running counter magic, the big card magic spells right now are you see occasional couple mana leaks, but it's usually Remand and Spell Snare. Spell Snare knocks out your 2 drops, which is unfortunate. That's really not something I'm going to play around. because if I'm not doing something turn 2, I don't feel like I'm doing the right thing with my deck. I'm not gonna let a voice or a goif or something something powerful sit in my deck when they might have a spell snare. On top of that, remand, not a crime to run anything in a remand. On the plus side, you find out that they did have a remand, they did have a counter magic, but you didn't wait. You used your mana hopefully effectively. So with this deck, it's you don't like playing around counters that much. Yeah, so it's I don't know. I'd love to give you more information, more insight on that. I'm still kind of newish to the deck, but at the same time, the deck needs to actively be doing things. It doesn't, actively put too much pressure on the board. It just kind of sits around waiting, and then just boom, million dudes. So, yeah, I mean, in general, this list might be a little different. I mean, I'm assuming it is. It's got a lot more, just a couple beat sticks. So, you might have to be as lax, pardon the pun, as lax in terms of, trying to put some pressure on the board. You'll get there, but you don't have to just run out dudes every turn to try to put pressure on. You can maybe play a dude and then I mean, you never really want to sandbag stuff, but at the same time, sandbag your better creature and let let the crappier one eat the eat the counter. Because if you have, say, like say just made two, if you have like a Linvala and a Kitchen Finks, and you need that Linvala to resolve, just slamming a Finks. Yeah, I mean, if they don't counter a Kitchen Finks, they probably don't have the counter spell. Just in general, because Kitchen Finks is a very strong, valuable card, and if they don't counter Finks, you kind of know your Linvala is good. You need to make sure that at any given point, what cards in your hand or the cards in your library are important, because you're going to need to bait out removal when it's there, and ideally you keep your better cards to go around it, but you have enough foresight to know what's better at the time. I realize that all was probably not so helpful. It's so situational. You just kind of got to know when you got to know when you have to go for it, and you have to know when you can hold off in terms of combo decks. This isn't a tutorial on combo decks. I'm not the best combo deck player in the world, but I've played a lot more combo than most people. So, just in general with combo decks, which this kind of is still, is that you aren't actively trying to win on any given turn. You're trying to improve your board state and sculpt your hand in a way that when you're dead on board next turn or you're dead next turn, that you take your last turn, go off and win. That's generally the way combo is played, at least the way I play it. And yeah, so just making sure you know how much life you need to go off with Birthing Pod, because it does get very tricky, and how much mana you need is very important. Since there's so many different ways to go off with Kiki-Pod, there's no general important numbers. Like if you played Modern Storm, your important numbers were getting a 7, getting a 4, and getting a 3. If you get to 3, you can cast your Seething Song and get to 5. If you get to 7, you could cast 6 or 7. If you got to 6, you could cast your Passive Flames from your hand. If you got to 7, you could cast it from the yard. And also have mana up to start off your chain again with Pyretic Rituals, Desperate Rituals, and Manamorphose. So it was very important to know the important numbers. There's really no important numbers in terms of mana cost here, but your important numbers are the set of numbers 1, 2, the set of numbers 3, 4, and also the number 4 with Persist. Those are your key numbers, because if you have a 1-drop and a 2-drop out, you can combo it with Kiki-Pod. It requires going from 2-drop. Let's use the samples of Birds of Paradise and Wall of Roots. Just a 1-drop, 2-drop, no special abilities effectively. Wall of Roots does add extra mana, but so what you do is you pot away your Wall of Roots. Use your mana from Wall of Roots, pot it away into a 3-drop, Deceiver Exarch. Use it to untap your Birthing Pod. You then pot away your Birds of Paradise, and then get yourself Phantasmal Image, copying Deceiver Exarch, getting a 3-drop. Untap your Birthing Pod. You use the Birthing Pod on the Phantasmal Image copy of Deceiver Exarch, getting a Restoration Angel at 4. Restoration Angel's battlefield, use a trigger to blink Deceiver Exarch. Deceiver Exarch comes into play. untaps the Birthing Pod, and then you go from Restoration Angel right to Kiki-Jiki Mirror Breaker. So overall, that will cost you going from 1 to 2, a 1 to 3, a 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and a 4 to 5. You are going to use 4 mana and 4 life. 4 Phyrexian life. So 4 Phyrexian mana, which is 8 life. So if you can afford 8 life and you have 4 mana, you are good to go. Double check those numbers. 2-drop into Exarch, birds into Phantasmal Image, Phantasmal Image into Rest. Yep. So it's 8 life and 4 mana. You can also substitute 1 extra mana for 2 life, up to 4 times. So yes, that's how you go from 1 to 2. So if you tap out and you're playing against Birthing Pod and they have 3 lands in play, a Birthing Pod, a Birds of Paradise, and a Wall Root, you just lose. That's the out of the blue one. You rarely see that one coming out of all the things. You look, they got they got a pod, then they got birds, Wall Roots. Like, who cares, right? It just seems like there's no action on the board. They got pod, they're waiting to draw an actual creature, and then out of nowhere, oops, they win. The other port number is 3/4. That's just a miniature version of the previous combo that I explained. From the 3, you get the from 3 to 4. I forgot already. From 3 to 4, you take your 3. You pod away your 4-drop, which is whatever, into Zealous Conscripts. Zealous Conscripts will gain control of your Birthing Pod, which you already control. It untaps it. You then use the 3-drop to get a 4-drop, which is Restoration Angel. Restoration Angel will blink Zealous Conscripts. Zealous Conscripts enter the battlefield, gain control of your Birthing Pod again, untap it. Then with that, you pod away your 4-drop, which is Restoration Angel, into a Kiki-Jiki Mirror Breaker. You then continuously gain control of Kiki-Jiki, untapping it, making more 3/3s. So that's a way to generate infinite dudes. Going from 3 to 4. 4 to 4, the 4 persist into 5s. You just pod away the Glenelendra or the Redcap. It'll come back into play. You grab a Zealous Conscripts, untap your pod it away the 4-drop, the persistent 4-drop, and then get a Kiki-Jiki Mirror Breaker again, making infinite dudes. Overall, that's kind of how the deck plays. It's not too awful in terms of, that's what I know. There's probably other ways to get up there. There's probably other important situations where you can go off. I imagine like a 1/3, you could probably go off almost certainly. I'm not going to spend the time trying to figure it out now, but there's a lot of different ways you can go off, and the big problem with this deck is it has a very high learning curve. So we'll go to the cons of the deck. Very high learning curve. It's there's so many situations you have to know what you're doing. You have to, you can stumble upon wins blindly. I've done that before, and it's complicated. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of experience playing it. This isn't a deck like a Affinity or Burn or Tron or things like that. I'm not saying Affinity is an easy deck to play by any means, or Red deck, or Tron or things like that. They're a little more straightforward, which is very important. Straightforward decks. The Tron decks, the green red ones, you have to kind of know what lands to get. You have to know how, exploration map, things like that. For the blue versions, you need to know blue white versions. Gifts ungiven, how that works. What to get, what you want in the yard, when to try to go for Elishnorn, when to go for Iona, things like that. It's very hard with Affinity or even like Infect decks to figure out when to go for it. It's hard to count up to 20 or 10. It requires a lot of skill to do so. So just by saying that if this deck's a lot more complex, doesn't mean it's more skill. It doesn't mean it's a better deck, or if you're not playing it, you're not a good player, or only the best players play this deck. Clearly, that's a lie, because I'm playing the deck, so it doesn't mean the best players are playing it. Um, yeah, it's a complicated deck, and if you don't have the experience with it, if you don't know how it works, you're at such a huge disadvantage that you're probably going to lose a decent amount of games because you're not sure what you're doing. You don't know how to get up there. Um, the mana base is, was awful when I played it. It might be better now with we run a couple townships, running some rugged prairies. Um, the mana base has definitely changed because the deck changed. At least our relax list over the one I was playing. Um, yeah, so overall, I think it's a good deck. Definitely a top tier deck. I don't know if it's tier one right now. It seems strong. I mean, if someone put it in top 8, it's definitely a tier 1 deck. I mean, not that a top 8 appearance makes it tier 1, but I knew about it before this. It's been known. It's out there. Strong deck. So yeah, it's powerful. It's good. I don't know if I'd recommend playing it at an event, just because it requires a lot of experience. But if you do want to play it, let me know. I could try to explain things to you. I can help you out in any way possible. You can teach me a thing or two. It'd be great. So overall, I think it's a good deck. That's a nice little primer for a deck for Modern, for anyone who's interested in going to Detroit. And if you're going to play Modern, at your local store, great. You can try out Pod. Even if you're not good with it, it's important to know how the cards work. The deck has so many one-ofs that if you play it in an event or two, or just look at the list for 10 minutes, you'll really benefit from it, because just knowing what all those one-ofs do, it'll give you better ideas of what your opponent's doing or what he can do and what to play around if he has a Pod in play. And that's one of those things, like, I'd imagine I probably won enough matches just because people I played against weren't sure all the interactions. So even if you want to play the deck, you'll become a lot better player if you. It's not gonna, make you a better player in a vacuum. It'll give you such a huge advantage against the deck if you know what's in it, or you think you know what's in it, and you have a general idea, because you won't play into their combo. So it's definitely something to think about. I don't know. I think deck's fun. It's good. So yes, that's a little primer for Kiki-Pod. Pretty long, I guess. I've been talking for a while. I lost track of time. I'm just so enamored with the deck, I guess. I love Kiki-Jiki. If possible, I would love to write a children's story, Kiki-Jiki and the Party of Friends. That's lame, I know, but I think Kiki-Jiki is really cool. The picture's awesome. I'm repeating myself. It's late. So yeah. On that note, yeah, that's the pseudo podcast for now. I know I got some interest about how to improve drafting, things like that. We'll look at that, and I apologize for not being able to do a live cast. Things came up, life happens. So a couple quick announcements. Thank you for everyone who submitted information for minor testing. I'm going to try to send out group messages, and we will see if we can just jam some games in during the week. That'd be great. Beyond that, there'll be 2 Grand Prix trials for Grand Prix Detroit coming up. One at Dark Force Games on Saturday. Don't know the entry fee. It will be Modern. I might be judging it, so if I'm judging it and you're there, good luck. Have a great time. And on Sunday at Collector's Inn, there will be a standard tournament for the buys as well. The prizes are pretty good. You should check out the Facebook page for Collector's Inn. I don't know the prizes offhand. I know they're giving out a gas card if a certain number of people go to the event, and they're giving out a hotel paid if a certain number of people go to the event. So if you're interested in going, it's a good way to get pay for your expenses, get some buys. If you're not sure if you're gonna go or not, having free hotel and free gas is a great incentive, because if you carpool, it's an awesome trip. So yeah, and if you're not interested at all in the gas card or the buys or hotel and whatnot, I'd imagine you'd be able to work it out with if you did win standard. I mean, it is standard, so you can play that, whatever. If you were interested in just playing standard, you got a deck you want to play and you think you're gonna win, doesn't hurt to go. You can, I'd imagine, they're giving out some store credit, a lot of store credit. I don't know offhand, how much they were giving in, how what the buy-in is, but Collectors is pretty good with store credit. And on top of that, if you happen to win the hotel and win the gas card, I'm sure you could trade it to someone for cards. And if you find yourself in the finals and the other person is going for sure and you're not, prize splits are a thing. Actually, I'll talk about prize splits for a minute. No, I won't. No, I'm not gonna. I am not gonna give John Blevins, who is listening, the satisfaction of knowing that I am gonna have 9 outros. I only have those 9 outros when he's around. So, those are the events coming up. Hopefully you have a good time at F&M. I'd like to see you at one of the Grand Prix trials if you're interested in Standard or Modern, or just hanging out. Doesn't hurt to just go hang out with people. Maybe play a couple practice games in between. I'm kind of enamored with Modern right now just because Standard's gotten a little stale for me. I know I have another year of Trading Post and Elixir Mortality, so I am not just trying to just play as many games as I can to max out the amount of standard games I can play with Elixir and Trading Post in my deck. That being said, I'm going to still play it for probably another year, barring the fact that the deck might possibly get awful. That was a Kiki-Jiki intro. So if you guys have feedback on topics you want, we're going to try to get that live cast going next week, but logistics might be an issue, people being available might be an issue. So if you have any idea for topics, great. We'll hopefully help you out in any way possible. If you're interested in becoming a better player at Magic, you feel like you can improve in some ways or whatever, and you want some assistance, just get a hold of me. You Facebook friend me, send me an email, joseph.p.shay@gmail.com. Hit me up on Facebook, or check me out at Magic Store. Hit me up on the Slam Dunklers page if you want, whatever. And I know John would be interested in this too. If you want some help and think there's areas of your game you can improve, or you want us to help you with anything, be it building mana bases, be it combo decks, be it whatever, Standard, Modern, Legacy, Vintage, EDH, Commander, Singleton, Pauper, I don't care. If you want help, I'll definitely be willing to help. I like making people better, I like hanging out, whatever. And if you're interested in getting better at other formats that I don't know, it causes me to get better with them too. I get more familiar with the decks. Get another set of eyes is very important, especially in format like Legacy, where it's so wide open that just any idea, as dumb as it sounds, might just be insane, like Carrion Feeder. Some guy played Gravecrawlers in Legacy, and he turned out to be a very good player, Sam Black, but at the same time he was playing effectively junk cards, and not the Gravecrawlers junk, but it doesn't seem like a typical Legacy card. If he's playing that in Legacy, then it's a wide open format. So more eyes is fun. Just playing games of older formats is fun. Magic's fun, whatever. So if you're interested in wanting to get better, let us know. If I can help you with anything, great. If you think there's something you can teach me about Magic or podcasting or decks or formats, I'd love to hear it. We're all in this together, and screw everyone who doesn't listen to the podcast. Dunklers forever. Later.